She's a picture mess. You
Actually.
do you. Yeah.
Listen, guys, this bit is about being unapologetically you, okay?
Hello!
Get heart-centered.
Everybody has a story. Like, it's a choice.
Ladies! How to admit it?
It is episode 15. Can you believe we're 15 episodes in?
I'm excited.
It's super crazy. It's super crazy. And I'm really excited today because we have a special guest that we get to interview today. His name is Eric Rooney. And I actually met Eric on Instagram through a mutual friend that I was following, and I saw his beautiful work of art and reached out and just introduced myself and said, hey, I need the hookup. And so I'm super excited to hear from him. How do you go by a different name?
Rooney, yeah,
Rooney.
you can call me Rooney.
Yes,
yeah.
by your last name.
Yes,
Rooney.
Rooney.
This is
Rooney Bloom.
Rooney Bloom,
Yeah,
baby.
thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here, sharing all the plant 411.
The Rooney bits.
Yeah,
Rooney
it's so when we have a guest that comes in, I think we are so full of gratitude because you are giving your time to our platform, but we want you to understand that we're in awe of what you do. And I know we haven't really talked about what you do. We're definitely being suspicious and we're being mysterious. We're alluding to it. But
Who is Rooney?
yes, so
Mysterious
can you please, let's go back. We want you to tell us who you are, what is your passion, how did you get to this passion, and explain your journey.
Excellent. So that's pretty deep. I got started in my plant journey in 2015 in San Francisco, California. Before that, I was more of a formalized teacher. I taught middle school and elementary school science, and elementary school math, so triangle stuff like that. And then slowly came to a realization through listening to my inner self that my passion was really educating all levels of people, from kids to adults, with everything earth and plant related and green. And so I moved back to Denver from San Francisco in 2015 and launched Rooney Bloom, which is what I do now.
So what would you say your official title is?
Official title:
Plant God.
Plant Guru, Dr. Plant Rooney, Dr. Rooney,
Dr. Green Thumb?
Dr. Green Thumb. He's in the house.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know. That's a good question. I would say I'm a plant connector. I'm an earth connector. I'm a sustainable integrator. Whether you work in a commercial setting or in a residential setting, that could be with your family or your colleagues for team building, implementing more sustainable procedures in what you do. So I do a little bit of everything, but I would say it's founded in connecting people to earth, this idea of biophilia.
I love that.
Biophilia.
Explain.
Very turned on by that word.
So
What does that mean?
biophilia is more of a commonly used word now that plants have kind of picked up this momentum, and people are making this connection to plants and nature. And biophilia is this need that we all have as humans to, I guess, further explore our connection with nature, and then understand that there's this reciprocation of health and healing through that. So biophilic design, let's talk about that. Biophilic design would be making sure a space, whether it's, let's say a communal, like a WeWork, or something where there's like this communal space where people can work, and that would be thinking everything about nature or earth and keeping in mind in the designs of that. So maybe it's integrating like solar panels with upcycled and recycled interiors, which still can look really posh and really nice, but biophilia is this connection, this need to be connected to nature.
I love that. So how do you personally and professionally, how do you integrate and sort of cross, I guess, hybrid those design and health like you just talked about?
Sure. Design and plants can be tricky, especially for me. I'm so passionate about plants that sometimes I'm initially approached to design a space because of the trend or the decor approach. And so for me, I take that on as a challenge working with clients, because I think there's an opportunity for healing and an opportunity for connection, and being able to put plants that are going to react in a particular type of space. So we can role play a little bit here, and we can kind of talk about, let's say you're interested in plants, and maybe you don't know about plants, and how would you approach me if you want to integrate some plants? And I'll kind of walk you through a quick brief overview of what we did. And I did it with Raina, which was really great, and being able to work with her. And so, we can kind of talk about our experience, I think.
Yeah, and I would say just listening to you speak about everything, it's like I just, in the back of my mind, keep going, yes, yes, yes. Like you've helped me so much in my journey. I just, recently moved from a place that was, all wood and a big wood house and no plants and just very dark and like had this energy that wasn't amazing. And so moving into my new space and all of the light that I had and all of these, just a different vibe completely, I wanted green in my home. And so reaching out to you was like just a godsend, honestly, because of all of the life that is now living in my apartment. And so I want to know how you work with beginners. Like, what does it look like when someone reaches out to you and says, hey, help?
Or even better, you walked into Raina's space.
Yeah.
What did you visually look for? Was it a connection with Raina? How do you work with those beginners?
Yeah, so Raina reached out because I sometimes will pop up just interesting plants on my Instagram, and during the summer I'll ship nationally because the plants can make it, but during the winter plants won't make it. So I was working with a coconut palm on my Instagram, and I had a DM, and
I literally just saw like these beautiful leaves, just like the lines through the leaves, and I said, I need that. And I'm like, I think I go, what the hell is that? Or what are you doing? What do you have?
I was like, Venmo me and I'll put it on my porch, and she came and picked up 2 of them. And so then later on, she reached out and she was like, hey, I'm getting settled into my place and I really would like some plants. And I said, great. So I popped on over, and the first thing I did was I walked in and I noticed these really 2 tall plants next to the windows, and they were canes, and I was really impressed at how beautiful they were, and their ability and willingness to being open and taking care of those plants. And I knew it was going to be a good connection. So I always look at that when working with a future client is, are they open and willing? Do they have time in taking on something that's living? This is not a piece of Tupperware. This is something that's living, and when it's in a controlled environment such as a house, it's mandatory that individual is going to be giving it time and attention. And time and attention is love, because you dedicate that time and attention. And it's also, this idea of health and wellness and healing, because you take care of a plant, that plant's gonna thrive. And it's this whole, and then we could talk about oxygen as well. So I always look with that when working with a potential client. Are they open to making adjustments in their schedule to making sure these plants are taken care of?
And I think back to living in that old house, and I would always buy, I don't even know what kind of plant they were. Lily, I don't even know what kind of plant they were. The ones that are all in all of the grocery stores that are so easy to take care of.
The white with the peace lily,
yes,
is it?
The peace lily,
Yeah,
yes.
peace lily.
I think I had gone through 20 peace lilies because I kept killing them. One little plant that grows in a fucking grocery store that should be the easiest thing to take care of. And so before Eric came over and did this little consult, in the back of my mind I'm like, oh my god, am I ready for this? Am I ready for this? But even just changing locations and just being in a different mindset, I was like, okay, I'm ready to commit to being this plant
And boom,
mom.
that was the approach that you were
Done.
taking.
Yeah.
And you, with that and making that room and saying, great, I'm in a new space,
Yeah.
I'm getting in a new routine, I'm making my schedule so that, it's something that's gonna be regular in my new adventure of being the best self, my best self. You made that plan, that connection with plants.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's really working with finding out what people want for their space, how much time, maybe it's a budget. And budget's not a huge priority of mine, because I think plants are so important. And I've worked with individuals who maybe don't have a budget. I've offered free tickets to my classes that I teach because I know people need this approach and this opportunity to be healed by that symbiotic relationship with plants. And then I kind of go in from there, and I start with the design of the pots, but the first thing I always tell my clients is, what kind of windows in sunlight do you have? And people are like, well, I've got lights, I've got a whole kitchen that's got a lot of lights, and
that was what we talked about last night. I'm sitting here laughing because I'm last night I'm, the average person, I guess, sometimes. I know that's rare to hear from me. And I said to him, so Rooney, I want to have plants, which I think is a normal reaction. But I did not think about the history of my patterns with plants, which is I always kill them, right? And I never understand why. And then he looked at me, and in the moment, first thing out of his mouth was, tell me about the light. And the first thing out of my mouth was, I have lights, no brainer. And he said, no, the natural light. And then immediately said, well, maybe, because I don't like light. And he said, maybe you need to grow to be in a place to be in more light so the plants can grow. And it was like a light bulb moment of, oh, these things are interconnected, and it's not about, I don't want children, I don't want to have to take care of anything, and I don't want responsibility, and I am the queen of that. And then I'm over here wondering why I can't keep a plant alive. It's a living thing.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I do is external landscaping. And something that I always tell people is, imagine a tree when it's in the middle of summer and you have a storm. And this tree that has all these leaves in the surface area is like swaying back and forth, and you know the winds are going crazy, and it's raining, and you know all of those fun things. Maybe there's a little bit of hail too, and so you get some some of that scraping and that whatever. And then in fall you slowly start to lose your leaves again. And for me, I know, and similar to nature, you need opportunities to slow down, and you need that recognition first that, hey, this is going to happen, and this is cyclical, and that everything has this process, whether it's your highs and your lows, or similar to nature where you have plants that go underground all winter and just stay under there. They sit under 2 feet of snow, and then as soon as the days get longer, you have an opportunity to expand on new things, to really reach some of the goals that you've set, or to be able to use nature as this carryover. Because again, back to that tree thing, all the leaves have dropped in the winter, and you have this blizzard. The wind passes right through those branches, and those branches aren't moving. They're just still, and they're patient, and they're waiting until the days get longer again, and they've got their leaves. And it can be similar to your situation, but I always tell people that because I have a hard time, especially being January. It can be really tough when the days are short, and we know that spring is coming, and it's this lull after the holidays have left, after families left, and friends have left. And it's similar to nature. And so that other connection of, hey, maybe you need to seek out opportunities in order to make space for those plants, or to make space for that vegetable garden, and being able to maybe show your kids how to grow, or make long-term goals. I know for me, I want to farm, and I want to farm because I want everyone to visit. I want them to basically move in the summer and have bonfires, and people run amongst the corn and the sunflowers and are just I guess hippy dippy stuff. And that's me, because I think that is when we're pure. It's music, food, and nature, and that's culture, and that's community. And so
Those are my 3 favorite things.
It makes you play and connect. I don't know if anyone else is listening to this, and I hope that you are, wherever you're listening in, whether you're in your car, whether you're in your office, whether you're at home, whether you're hiding from your children in the closet. Whatever you're doing right now.
come out of the closet.
Okay, hey baby, come out of the closet. I'm here for you. We're all here for you. But I hope that you're really getting triggered in the best way, and realizing that if you're a person that has wondered why you can't keep a cactus alive, this is why. Because you got to work on you. It's got to start with you. You have to look within. I am now, in a different season of my life, and I'm outside more, and I'm having more light, and I'm willing to bring plants into my space now, and I can't wait to share with you guys what that looks like with Rooney Bloom's help. And I hope that you really start to look within and realize how connected you are to everything and everyone. And if you are like me and you don't like to be outside, I want you to look into why, because there's a story that's connected to why you don't like to be outside. Because you talked about, Rooney, how connected we are, that innate, if you just go into nature where you have no cell phone service. I know we all freak out, no cell phone service. What does that do for a person to just be around nature and plants and the ground?
Yeah, I think specifically what you were saying about the cactus, I think that's an interesting perspective. And think about sun as well. What plants are surviving in the complete dark. I think those have yet to be explored, because it's not enough to really even know of anything. Everything needs the light. And
My
that could
plants survive.
it could be getting outside, and what gives us our oxygen, which allows us to breathe. That's the breaking down of carbon dioxide that we exhale, and that is in the atmosphere, that these plants break down, that they share with the fungi, and they break and have this symbiotic relationship underground, and then release back to us so that we can breathe. We would not be here without plants. And being vulnerable and saying, I don't know about plants, and I want to take this chance to learn, I think is something else that people are afraid to do too. People don't come and say, I need to know about this. Instead, they maybe say, I just keep getting these. And you wouldn't do that with a dog or a cat that you adopt.
Right.
Oh, my dog just keeps getting killed because and it sounds funny, but I think we need to also shift our language towards plants as well. And when we think about it so frivolously, and we don't talk about it into high regards, it manifests in a lot of people's actions. And so when we start talking more properly about nature and about plants and the earth, I think we're going to start respecting that and expecting that respect as well.
And it's crazy because you're really pointing out to me right now, and like I'm really soaking in what you're saying. I have such a strong story of I can't have plants because I'll kill them. And that's like, comes back to me actually not even taking the time to take care of a plant, which means I can't take the time to take care of myself. And I would love to know more about how you connect healing and plants. Like that's what's really kind of resonating for me right now, is that it's nature, but it's just so healing.
And that's really what I have do from when I moved back from San Francisco, starting in floral design and doing it first as more of like this approach to, I can make a significant amount of money doing weddings and doing parties and more commercial accounts where I was designing these gorgeous weekly arrangements, and now it's turned into connecting people. Being able to do this process, people have to be vulnerable and they have to be willing to approach me, because I can be tough in it as well, because again, I think your words manifest kind of what your approach is towards taking care of plants. So I'm getting ready to open my third brick and mortar, and people come in and they say, I kill every plant I get. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be working with you and rehoming a plant, because you first have to change your language.
Yeah.
If you're going to say, I might kill it, then you're going to kill it.
Yeah.
It's a mindset. You know, people all of the time, even in some of the businesses we're in, you know, they say, I can't do that, I can't do that. If you say you can't do it, then you're not going to.
So I heard something so powerful, and I'm sitting here scribbling notes as you're speaking because I'm that moved by it, and holding it in because I want to say, oh yes, preach. So you said that oxygen, plants provide oxygen. Oxygen allows us to breathe. And I'm sitting here out of breath thinking, I can't keep a plant alive, which means I'm keeping myself suffocated. I am keeping it so that I am all the time. And I had a light bulb moment. It's not that I can't keep plants alive, it's that I'm unwilling to keep a plant alive because I like the chaos of keeping myself stuck in the and how much of that story is committed. So even though you came here and you sat down and said that you are a plant guru and a plant god, what I feel is that you are an energy healer. And you do that through plants.
Plant God, we'll watch that one. I mean, that's really, I appreciate that compliment. Wow, yeah. And I think, thank you for acknowledging that and I guess hearing that. I guess that's why I do what I do now, rather than designing just those arrangements, because it was something deeper, and that was just the universe carrying me into truly what my purpose was, which is that healing aspect through plants as well. And to answer your question just a moment ago, those plant connections they can be all across the board, and like you just witnessed in all these light bulbs going off, is that there's so many analogies, would it be, that are metaphors, yeah, like of these plants. And when you water a plant and you give it its nutrients, it blooms. When you water your soul and you give your soul its nutrients, you can bloom. But it's not consistent. Nature has its time, like I mentioned earlier. You're not always fucking blooming.
Yeah.
And people need to get over that aspect of, I always have to be blooming. You need time to retreat, to consider your roots, what's your foundation, what's holding you still, how are you gonna weather the storm? If you're gonna have this torrential downpour of a river, how are your roots gonna keep you grounded in that? When there's 80-mile-an-hour winds, which tomorrow in Denver, I know we're expecting that with it being, winter. It's how are you going to stay through that storm? How are you going to stay where you're at? Or maybe it's time to bloom and seed and be carried into the wind and find a new environment that you need to flourish in. That's it.
Guys, I thought we were going to sit here and talk about fucking plants.
I
was
dying.
really excited.
This
to
is what
talk
I
about
do.
plants.
This is what I do.
And I need you guys to hear that. I need you to hear that you cannot judge a book by its cover. I thought we were going to talk about plants. I was hoping we were going to talk about cannabis plants. We ended up talking about energy healing. I feel like I sat down and was a bit tired, and I am a bit energized right
It
now.
was just church.
I've
went to church.
I've had goosebumps.
You took me to
this
church.
entire, I can't stop.
Every
me to
2
church.
seconds, you're talking, Rooney, and then Raina and I are looking at each other going, oh
We're just
my God.
nodding.
Lindsay's taking notes, which she never does. Like, this is unbelievable. And I don't know.
This is unexpected.
Yeah, this
I'm
is so
mind
unexpected.
blown.
Yeah.
I really hope that you guys watch the YouTube clip and see that we're literally in church, because I'm sitting here trying so that you can actually hear his words. I'm trying not to go like over everything, but I'm vibing out in my chair and moving a lot and like throwing up the "we're not worthy" sign. It's crazy. So
I love it. I love it. You guys, I'm gonna stop this shit right here before we all start crying. And we're gonna go into our little part of this podcast called our bit of tea.
oh, it's time. Bit of tea.
It's time for our bit of tea.
Rooney, will you stay for a bit of tea?
Lisa, can I have some more?
I love how every guest just transitions into this.
They do it. Yeah, we don't even have to look at
perfect.
it.
It's perfect.
They get it.
Okay, today's bit of tea. The question is from J_Monroe.
Monroe bits.
_Monroe. And the question is, how do you love yourself? Which I think is a very good question.
Gosh, this is all we've been talking about. Okay, this is so perfect.
It's kind of perfect. So I'm going to start, and how do I love myself? For me, the first thing I think of is just again, I hate to say the same thing, but my daily routine, the health, the fitness, the nutrition, every single part of my day, I think, is how I love myself. Waking up and making sure I get a workout in. Making sure that I get nutrients in, making sure that I rest and get enough sleep. Just my entire day, I think, is loving myself.
That's great.
Does that make sense?
Love that. Yeah, as I continue on this journey of organization and getting more organized in routines, I'm finding out that there's a lot of love and loving yourself within that too. For me, loving myself is being my most authentic self, which I don't think it's a journey that I think you are constantly getting better at. But I think as you are your more authentic self more, and sometimes that's really uncomfortable because you're like, I just want to try this, or I just want to do this. You love yourself more by just really listening to what your body's telling you and doing what you need to do. So I think as you are the most authentic self, you have the most love for yourself, which allows you to share that and love other people.
I love that. How I love myself is 100% through service. I'm a teacher, I'm a giver. I feel so jazzed and full of love, and my cup is full when I am giving to others. So I love to take care, to listen, to serve, to make people laugh. That's how I fill my cup.
Yeah, couple?
My couple. Actually, you guys,
I actually was looking for a couple in your cabinet.
I need a couple. I need a couple of tissues. Rooney, I'm like actually quite emotional. Guys, I'm having a meltdown. I'm losing it.
It's okay.
I'm losing
menopause? Is that what
it might be menopause. I don't know, a couple. I need a couple. A couple of tissues and a couple of drinks.
Oh, just because I need a couple, but not tissues. couple of things. My turn?
Lindsay, what's yours?
All right, so self-love, I have it, how do I love myself? I have self-love tattooed on my knuckles. I have stay hard tattooed on my knuckles. And my self-love and how I love myself is that I stay hard. I feel like I just said the same thing twice.
Define that.
Wow, okay. Tired. Basically, I show the fuck up every single day, and it's not because it's easy or because I want to or because I have to, it's because I get to. I believe that it is a privilege and a blessing every single day that I get to open my eyes and have the gift of eyesight and have the privilege to walk on this earth and share this earth with plants and animals, and especially now plants. Damn, whole new respect for the plants. But I just show the fuck up and I stay true to me, whatever that means in that day. I am a person that is constantly confused with their identity, and I don't hide from that. I don't hide that from myself. I don't shame myself about that confusion. I am constantly looking to grow into my most authentic self, and therefore it seems inauthentic sometimes. So I just want you guys to know, if you're confused, that's okay. Lean the fuck in. Lean in, baby.
Wrap us up, Lindsay.
All right, I think that's it. And honestly,
Wait.
Oh.
The most important thing is you have probably listened to this and you're like, how do I get in touch with Rooney?
Okay, bye guys!
we just wanted to tease you guys. That's what we did that on purpose.
I'm still stuck on couple.
Yeah. guys, he's our friend. Na 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 na. Okay, pimp your bits.
Yeah.
How do people get to know
Wow,
you?
I can be your friend too. On Instagram at Rooney_Bloom. The best thing, kind of like I mentioned earlier, is being vulnerable and reaching out and understanding that you have to ask for help. So don't let your ego get in the way and ask for help when you have questions about plants or how you can implement more sustainable practices in your life. But also know that that is a business that I run as well. So email could be sometimes preferred if you have a video or images to send to. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me is Instagram or email. And email's Rooney@RooneyBloom.com. Besides that, thank you guys so much for having me. This is
Thanks for being here.
I'm glad I got to spill my bits. Is that what it was? Or
Yeah. Share those bits.
Spill
All
my bits.
right. Ladies, as always, take care of them bits.
Bye, guys. Okay.
That was my
Dude,
favorite one.
that was
How
so
did that turn
good.
into like we didn't even talk about fucking plants?
I didn't even.
We did.
You are the most.
Wow. That
Hey, Lady Bits! Thanks again for tuning in and listening to our podcast. The way this community really grows and supports one another is simply by word of mouth. We would really appreciate it if you could head over and rate and review our podcast on iTunes, then go check out our social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and go like, share, comment, and subscribe to all of it. This community is really to support women, educate women, and also just to help you find your voice. So until next time, take care of the bits you've got.